Jan Markell here. We're at Understanding the Times 2018, and I'm so pleased to be talking to each one of my speakers. We're going to spend, 20, 30 minutes or so and talk about issues of the day that I feel they're relevant to me, and I have a hunch they're going to be relevant to some of my speakers. And I'm so pleased to be starting the process with Pastor J.D. Farag, and was pleased to visit Pastor J.D.'s church in March and get away from the Minnesota cold, the land of the frozen chosen here. So thank you for that invitation,
You're
J.D.
so welcome.
And, where to start? And I was thinking driving over here today, we're heading towards the end of 2018. And what in this year would tell you, and there's lots of things that have happened this year. Israel and America have grown closer together. We've got activity in the Middle East. We've got Iran, Turkey, all the alignment. But is there one thing that's happened in 2018 that says to you, oh my, it really is late?
Yes, and that would be, in a word, Jerusalem and the centrality of Jerusalem. And I think the relocating of the U.S. Embassy.
And that was on my list.
Right. And for President Trump to do it on the 70th anniversary of Israel's rebirth as a nation on May 14th of 2018 was significant. It's like you've always said, Jan, that Israel is God's prophetic clock. Israel is the hour hand, Jerusalem the minute hand, and the Temple Mount the second hand on that clock.
Yeah. The other thing, if there's one word that I would probably be pointing to again, and we've talked about this on air and privately, and that's that word convergence. And we've had a remarkable convergence in 2018. We've seen activity around and near Damascus. We've seen the rise again of Putin, the rise of Turkey. I mean, when in this world was Turkey important? Until probably the last few years, anyway. Right. We've seen the rise of apostasy in the church. We've seen a red heifer born in Israel. There have been other red heifers. Maybe this will amount to nothing, but nonetheless, as you and I have said, that convergence is getting so you can't just shrug your shoulders and say there's nothing to this.
Yes, it would be disingenuous at best, dishonest at worst to do so, because everything is lining up perfectly and precisely as we're told in God's Word it would.
Yeah. Now, you hear from people, as do I, and all of my speakers, and I was on the phone this morning with another one of them, and in the hotel that he's in, folks came up to Pastor Jack and said, we don't have a church. We don't have a pastor. You're a pastor. A number of you gentlemen, you, Billy Crone, Amir, Jack, others, you're kind of turning into America's pastors. And I know you didn't sign up for that. I get that. And but that too is a bit of a commentary on the lateness of the hour. The Bible said there'd be a falling away. The Bible said there'd be apostasy in the end times. The Bible said there would people be giving heed to the doctrine of demons instead of sound doctrine.
Revelation,
and so people are looking for sound doctrine. It's not just an issue of, we want to hear Bible prophecy preached every Sunday.
Right.
They're not asking for that.
Right.
You do that.
Right.
They're not. They want sound doctrine.
Right.
So they're having a hard time even finding that.
Jan, you touch on a topic that for me has been both conflicting and even humbling. And I have to say that last year, coming here to your conference and speaking, as was my privilege to be asked, I was really taken back by how many people said what you just said.
Yeah.
Some of whom had traveled great distances. Last night when John brought me from the airport to the hotel, we pull into the parking lot. It's a little bit later at night, so all the cars are parked there, and we were noticing all of the license plates from New York, Texas, all over the U.S. I jokingly said, we just need to see a Hawaii plate, which we didn't. But I think it speaks to the hunger and the thirst on the part of God's people
Yeah.
for sound doctrine.
Sound doctrine, for truth,
Yes.
for warning signs, what they should be looking for. I think some are a little frightened. We're seeing a rise of evil.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing even a rise of evil in Washington, our nation's capital.
Mm-hmm.
Washington is almost the capital of the world because it's so important. And then we see the left pushing back so
Mm-hmm.
hard,
Mm-hmm.
pushing back against righteousness, against the gospel, against God, against Christianity. I have a slide in one of my presentations, a man holding a sign, "If Jesus comes back, kill him again."
Yeah.
So we've got this hostility
Yeah.
towards things that are of God. I've never seen it in my lifetime like now.
Mm-hmm. I just got done teaching through Ephesians,
Yeah.
chapter by chapter, verse by verse, and of course the ending of this epistle by the Apostle Paul focused in on spiritual warfare. And I was struck by this verse where he says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And it's an interesting word because wrestling was full-on contact. We struggle, yes, but wrestling is more intense. And I think about Jacob, who wrestled with, I believe it was the Lord, a Christophany, and he wrestled all night with the Lord. This infers that our wrestling, our battle is in the spiritual realm. What we're seeing in the United States today, particularly, is a spiritual battle, the likes of which we have never seen in human history.
Never. Absolutely
And
not.
that's another sign.
It's another
It's
sign.
another sign.
It's another sign. Absolutely. A year ago, almost to the day, you and Amir and I sat in a room just like this, and we'd had a casual 45-minute talk about events of the day back then. And you and I happened to reference, we referenced the pre-Trib Rapture, and in the context of, because this world's going haywire, thank God we have the hope, our blessed hope of a pre-Trib. We were roundly mocked, scoffed, made fun of for almost a full year. Videos made of us and everything. And that's fine. Be my guest. I really could care less. I believe it's the truth, and it's great comfort, as it is to you.
Yes, it is.
You know what? And I think part of it is you and I are very sensitive, and we weep for the world. We weep for what the world is going through. We want our Lord to come and deliver us from the circumstances that so many are caught up. You and I live fairly comfortably now. Doesn't mean we're going to be this way forever. But an awful lot of people aren't living comfortably. They're under persecution. Look in the Middle East, your heritage.
Yes.
So,
Jan, and I'll be talking about this in my teaching tomorrow. The blessed hope is the only hope.
it's the only hope we have.
And as I see what's taking place in this world today, I just say to myself, to encourage myself in the Lord, that you're coming soon, Lord. And as bad as things are getting, I know this for a certainty, that no matter how bad it gets, and it could, as you say.
It could. Pastor Jack feels it's going to get bad for us,
Yes.
even in the coming short time ahead. Yep.
But here's the thing. God is going to get us through, no matter how bad it is, up until that time, soon and very soon, when that trumpet sounds. And when you have that to look forward to, the blessed hope, it makes whatever you're going through easier to get through.
That's my point.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing I want to stress, Pastor J.D., is you and I are not escape artists. We're not just trying to well, this world is, we'd like to depart, but that's not our motive. Our motive isn't to escape. Our motive is to be salt and light and delay the decay as long as we can. But I think that we get labeled as escape artists. We just want to get out of here and no. I mean, I want to fight to the last minute, the
Right.
last second.
And that's what our faith is. It's a good fight of faith.
Yeah.
And it is a war.
It is.
It's not a playground, as one said. It's
Yeah.
a battleground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think what our critics are not quite perceiving is there's such a difference when it comes to the wrath of man, the wrath of Satan, the wrath of God, and that God just doesn't pour out his wrath on his church, on his bride. He lets mankind do it, sadly, and as we see that going on in the Middle East and Africa, but God doesn't pour out his wrath on his church. Why would he do that?
Right.
He died for the church.
Right. Well, again, as it's been said, the purpose of the tribulation is for the salvation
Israel.
of the Jewish nation.
Yeah.
And it is that 70th week of Daniel. It is a
Exactly.
period of 7. It's not 3.5 or pre-wrath or any of that. It has to be 7, a period of 7. It is the number of completion.
Right, but we have probably 1% of our churches today even talking about Israel. They don't understand the concept of the separation of Israel and the church. God has a plan for Israel. God has a plan for the church, and the plan for the church is not to beat up the bride. But I don't know of any churches talking about Israel.
They're not. They are drawing in great numbers those who are wanting to have their ears that are itching to hear what they want to hear. And this is what we're seeing. And again, it's just one of many signs.
I want to go back, Pastor J.D. Farag, and that's who I'm talking to for these few minutes at Understanding the Times 2018. I want to go back, J.D., to election 2016, and the reason to me that was so significant is a group of people just had their mind blown that day. The group of people, I'm not talking Democrats necessarily, I'm talking about globalists, one-worlders, those who would love to see no borders. If we have no borders, if we had one government, the world would be perfect, fair pay, everyone gets paid the same, no environmental profits. That's what they're thinking. All right, the globalists were defeated in November of 2016. I think all of us were quite shocked. Obviously, God said, not ready for their kingdom yet. We're going to have a little reprieve. And grateful that Donald Trump indeed has Christian-friendly policies. But I just, to me, it was God up there kind of laughing that he took a very, some unlikely person to overrule this whole empire of one-worlders.
I think I'm in the Proverbs where we're told that God directs the hearts of men in kings and rulers as he directs the waters downstream. I see the handprint of God all over the election of Donald Trump. And I have said it before, I'll never tire of saying it, but I truly believe that the election of Donald Trump as the President of the United States has in fact sped up, revved up Bible prophecy and its fulfillment.
Well, you have actually explained that on my radio program, and you've explained that on your weekly prophecy updates. We have some new people watching right now. They don't know what you mean. Why don't you give us a few paragraphs of what you mean?
So his support of Israel and his, as you mentioned, pro-Christian policy has in fact moved forward, I believe, very quickly the fulfillment of key Bible prophecies, not the least of which, really I would say chief of which, is Jerusalem again, and the relocating of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, which set in motion. We've talked about this, Jan, in Revelation, Jesus says, and I know that's the theme of your conference this year, "Behold, I come quickly." And that is an interesting word in the original Greek language of the. Am I getting ahead of you? Sorry about that.
Go ahead. Be my guest.
I'm speeding it up.
Yeah, you're speeding it up. You're revving it up.
Here's the thing. That Greek word is tachos in the Greek, where we get our English word for tachometer, which is a measurement of revolutions per minute, or RPMs. In other words, what Jesus was saying was, behold, I come quickly. I come at a time when things are revving up. The day and the hour is already set. It's the revolutions, the revving up, that will be at the time that I come.
Yeah, interesting.
And Donald Trump did that, by the way.
He did that.
He did that.
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah.
There were some things the previous administration did that revved things up too, though. I mean...
But do you see how God, in his sovereignty and perfection, just orchestrated and even choreographed the steps of the election of U.S. presidents? Because, see, Iran and Russia, and now Turkey, which last year we couldn't talk about Russia, Iran, and Turkey.
We did not. No.
So here we are today, 2018, and when you talk about convergence, there's something else you have to talk about: the statistical odds, mathematically, of even a small number of them all simultaneously coming together perfectly at the precise time. I had somebody email me, and I made a comment in one of my prophecy updates, just kind of in passing. I wonder what the statistical odds of Russia, Iran, Turkey, the three main nations in Ezekiel 38, being in Syria at the ready, and we know the prophecy in Isaiah 17 about Damascus. And we also know that everything, that the goalposts are in Jerusalem. That's the end game.
Yeah, that's the end game.
Right? So what are the statistical probabilities? And he emailed me, apparently a mathematician. You got to love mathematicians, because he came up with this number that was something like this to the 10th power time. And I'll tell you, it made my hair hurt.
Really?
And I don't have much hair to hurt, so it was a huge number. And just three of these. Yeah.
Interesting. Our time is winding down, Pastor J.D. Farag. What would you, if you had a room full of pastors here right now, and when you speak tomorrow and when things are replayed later, you will have a room full of pastors, perhaps thousands. But right now, what would you say to them?
I would want to encourage them. I would want to encourage them. I think about what the Apostle Paul, in his first letter to the Thessalonians, said in the context of the rapture, that we who are alive and remain will be caught up. And then at the end of that, he says, encourage one another with these words. These words. Yeah.
Calvary Chapel, Kaneohe, Hawaii. I've been there, and if you folks are vacationing in Hawaii, be sure to check it out. Beautiful facility you have, J.D. I mean, it's breathtaking. It's so gorgeous. And catch his Sunday prophecy update every Sunday. He's done that since 2006. I've watched for 3-4 years. Summarizes the week's activities from a biblical and prophetic perspective. J.D., thank you for coming all the way from Hawaii.
Thank you for coming
a little early here today. And we're looking forward to tomorrow.
All right.
God bless you.